In this video, we're going to show you how to install a ball joint on your Ford F-150 located in the lower front control arm. Using our 22mm socket, we're going to loosen and remove our lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, grab your wheel, remove it, and set it aside. Now that we have the wheel off, we're going to go ahead and crank out the wheel so we can access the two bolts on the back side of our brake caliper. Using our 13mm socket, loosen and remove the two bolts. Now ideally, our next step is to go ahead and pull off our brake caliper, and we want to use our tool here to go ahead and hang the caliper off to the side, whether it's off of the control arm or off of the frame or something like that, just out of the way. If we use our pry tool here, we can go ahead and gently pry on this and collapse the pistons just a little bit. With the caliper set off to the side, we can remove our brake pads. Now we're going to remove our brake caliper bracket. There are two bolts here and here. These are 21mm. We're going to use our 21mm socket with our breaker bar. I want to go ahead and loosen these. And then we'll remove them. You do want to take caution. Once you remove these bolts and the bracket wants to come off, the brake rotor will be free. You want to make sure that that doesn't fall off of the wheel studs. Go ahead and remove the two of these. Go ahead and remove your brake rotor. We now need to remove the center cap to access the hardware on the end of our axle. You can sometimes use a chisel to pop in here. Go ahead and pop that out. Let's remove the 13mm nut using our socket and impact gun. We now want to go ahead and just tap the axle stud right here in just a little bit. We're going to use a small punch. Just want to make sure that our splines are free from the CV axle to our hub, and it is. Now our ABS wire comes down behind our dust shield here and goes to our wheel hub. But we're going to go ahead and start to separate our harness here from its retainers. We're going to come right up to the top. We're going to use our trim tool and pop out this retainer right here. There's one right here. This one here is just held in by a little plastic retainer clip. So just pop that little grommet out. And right here is an 8mm. Loosen and remove that. Now from up top inside the driver's side wheel well, we have our air box right here where the air filter is. Here's our brake master cylinder reservoir. I'm going to come on down here, and right here is a connector we need to access. There's going to be a little red clip on it that we need to release the safety lock on it. and then separate the harness here. Now we're going to use our pocket screwdriver here to go ahead and release the red lock tab. So I like to get underneath it. I'm going to pry that up. All right, so we have the red lock tab pushed up, and then there's a tab right underneath it. You're going to push in on that and pull the connector out. There it is right there. So we can go ahead and feed that down into the wheel well. Now that we have our ABS wire disconnected, I'm simply going to take it and I'm going to gently wrap it around here like so. On the back side of the knuckle, we want to go ahead and loosen and remove this 10mm bolt here that holds our lines in place. Now if we follow those lines down, we have our vacuum lines here for our four-wheel drive actuator. We need to go ahead and remove these. And most of the time they're going to be on there pretty tight. You can grab those and just wiggle those up and off. We want to go ahead and disconnect our tie rod end here from our knuckle. It's a 21mm nut here, so we're going to use our 21mm socket with our breaker bar. And we want to go ahead and break this free. With that loose, we're going to go ahead and switch over to a power tool and zip that right out. I'm just going to go ahead and put the nut back on the tie rod end. We want to go ahead and loosen our upper ball joint here. It's an 18mm nut. We use our socket and our ratchet here. Now chances are that upper control arm is going to start to lift up and out. Now currently our ball joint is spinning with the nut, so we're going to use an 8mm wrench on the bottom stud portion here. And we're going to use our open end 18 and go ahead and spin the nut off. Now we did spray it down with a lubricant to help with this here. And you can see that control arm starting to lift up and out. So as this comes up and out, be careful as the knuckle can come out. I'm going to leave this nut on just a couple of threads. That's going to help retain this in place. We're now going to transition down to the lower ball joint. On the bottom here, we have a 21mm nut. We're going to use our impact gun. Go ahead and tap this up. Now that we have the nut removed off the bottom, we need to go ahead and remove this the rest of the way. Once again, be careful because the only thing holding this once this nut comes off is our axle in the middle. So I'm just kind of leaning up against the knuckle itself. I'm going to use a pair of pliers here that won't mark up the ball joint shaft. While we remove the nut the rest of the way. Don't recommend using regular pliers on the ball joint stud there, but there we go, we have that separated. Now what we want to do is work the knuckle down and off of the axle. And we'll set that aside. Our next step, go ahead and grab some sort of securing strap, pull the CV axle up and out of the way. Now on the top of our ball joint here is a locking clip. We want to go ahead and clean this. We're going to spray it down with some rust penetrant. We want to scrub it, make sure we can get in here, get that locking clip off. Now on the back here, we have two little holes, and we're going to use our pliers here. And what you want to do is expand this out and get this clip off. You can see that our tool is actually bending. Our clip here is rusted into place. So what we're going to try and do is loosen that. I'm going to use a chisel here. Basically just want to try and get in and kind of break it free. Sometimes go around the perimeter here to break that rust free. There we are. We got our snap ring removed here. Now in most cases, we can simply just go ahead and use our hammer and bonk this ball joint out. Now that we have our ball joint out, I want to go ahead and clean up around the perimeter and on the inside here. We're simply going to use a bristle brush on our drill. Want to clean out any of the rust that might be in there. Just give it a quick cleaning. All right, let's get our ball joint prepped to install. Now we have our ball joint set up inside. We have a cup on the top and a larger cup on the bottom. I want to go ahead and slowly start to press this in. I'm going to go ahead and press this up. And what we're looking for here is the seat of the ball joint to be pressed flushly up against the control arm itself. You'll know when it's bottomed out. You just can't move that C-clamp anymore. It'll be solid. I want to install our new snap ring. Make sure that's locked into place. Let's go ahead and release our CV axle here. Now, next thing we want to do is before we grab our knuckle, I want to go ahead and put some high temp grease on the inside here. We're going to put some on the teeth here. On the inside. All right, let's install our knuckle. Now when we go to install our knuckle, we need to get the hub onto our CV axle as well as our lower ball joint and the upper ball joint all together. I'm going to go ahead and start with the lower ball joint. Work that axle into the hub. I'm going to go ahead and get the lower nut installed. With the lower ball joint nut on, I'm going to go ahead and install my CV axle nut. Just get started a few threads. That'll hold everything in place right here. All right, now if you have another set of hands, someone helping you, they can probably pull down on the control arm and get the stud into the knuckle and then put the nut on. In our case here, we're running solo, so we're going to use a ratcheting strap here. If you want to, go ahead and start to snug down or at least tighten up that nut, get that further up there before we release our strap. Completely up to you. Once that nut is on there, you can then just remove that strap and tighten this down, but this has less resistance on it with that pulled in. So why not take advantage of the ease of it? Remove the securing strap. Let's go ahead and snug down this upper nut here. We're going to transition from the upper ball joint to our tie rod end. Just snug that gently. Now, when installing the lower nut, you want to pay attention to the hole in the ball joint stud. That's where our cotter pin is going to go. So it's facing us right here. That's fantastic. Let's go ahead and get the nut on. I want to go ahead and snug this down. Now what we do is we put our pole jack underneath our hub area here. We're going to go ahead and lift up our knuckle itself so that our ball joint seats. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and torque down our nut to 76 foot-pounds. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look for that hole in the ball joint stud. And it looks like one of the legs right here on our castle nut is blocking it. So what you want to do is you never loosen the castle nut in order to get that to line up. What you do is you continue to tighten it until the next notch in the castle nut lines up with that hole. There it is right there. We're going to take our cotter pin here, feed that through. Tap that through. And take one of those pins here from the legs, bend that down. I like to bend that over and then snip off the excess. Torque the tie rod end nut to 76 foot-pounds. Torque down the upper ball joint nut to 46 foot-pounds. Now at this point here, we're going to go ahead and grab our assembly and rotate it to the right. Let's snug down our axle nut. Just bottom that out. Let's go ahead and torque down the axle nut to 30 foot-pounds. I'm going to go ahead and use our pry bar here just to hold that. Take your four-wheel drive vacuum tube here. Make sure this is clean. You might be able to take a small flathead pocket screwdriver and just clean out anything that's there. Line this up, install it onto the back of the actuator. Install the bracket here for your brake line. Let's go ahead and snug that down. Install the bolt for your ABS. I'm just going to pop this into the clip right here. Snug this down gently. Get our retainer in there. Pop this one in here. You'll feed this wire up behind here. After you torque down our axle nut, go ahead and install the cap. I'm going to go ahead and treat the surface of my wheel hub with some anti-seize compound. And install our brake rotor here. And line up our caliper bracket. Once we get these started, we're going to go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and torque these down to 184 foot-pounds. Get install the brake pads. And make sure that your pads are fully seated. You know, in some cases, you're going to have to go ahead and compress your pistons into the caliper. You may go ahead and try this. It might slip right on. Line this up. Get your bolt started. I'm going to go ahead and gently snug these down. We now want to go ahead and torque down these bolts to 27 foot-pounds. Now up underneath the hood, let's go ahead and connect our ABS harness. Line that up, push that in. You're going to hear it and feel it lock into place. Don't forget to engage the red lock tab. You want to push that in. Now, for any reason, if that red lock tab is not going in, it could be one of two issues. One, it's dirty. Go ahead and give it a spray down with some spray solvent. Or the connector is not fully seated, not allowing for that lock tab to go in. Grab your wheel. Line it up on the studs. I'm going to go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started. Once they're all started, we'll go ahead and snug them down. We're now going to torque down our lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds. When doing this here, you want to do it in a crisscross or a star pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.